Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whichever applies to you. And thank you for joining us for the first day of our 10th ChefConf. Welcome to those of you that are joining us for the first time, and welcome back to the many of you who have been with Chef for quite a few events. We're glad you're all here. The strength of Chef has always been more about the people than the technology, and we're all weathering everything about the past few years as well as we can. We can't wait until there's another option, but for now, we're back together on a digital platform, waiting for when the world will feel sane, or at least we'll be able to see each other in person. We hope everyone is staying safe, and we hope ChefConf provides an opportunity to come together and support one another wherever we are. One of the biggest things we learned last year as we shifted to a digital ChefConf was how many more chef users we could reach with a digital event. For that reason, and many more obvious reasons, we've spent much of our time since then offering an increased digital presence in the form of webinars, product announcements, community outreach, and live streams as awesome new ways to connect with our ever-growing community, both internal and external. This year, we're happy to share that we have attendees from across the globe spanning nearly every time zone and in more countries than ever before. From the data I was able to dig up, ChefConfs have been attended nearly 18,000 times by people from over 4,000 different companies across every industry you can think of. The thing that holds us together, beyond the incredible quality of humans in the DevOps community, is a need for a secure, sustainable, patterned way to maintain the technology that drives our lives. That includes the company that brought Chef into its portfolio last year, Progress. Today, we're going to hear about the acquisition, what we've built since then, and the future of Chef from Sundar, the leader of the Chef business here at Progress, and from Sudhir, our VP of Product. But first, I'm excited to be joined today by Yogesh Gupta, the CEO of Progress. Hi, Yogesh, and welcome.
It's a pleasure, Vinny. It's wonderful to meet you in person. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, it's not too much of a trip from Michigan. It's just a hop over the lake, essentially. But it's great to be in Boston, great to be in our office.
It is. It's a wonderful place to be headquartered. Boston is such a wonderful tech ecosystem for a software company. We're really proud to be based out of Boston.
Yeah, and it's Progress. The story of Progress is crazy to me because this is the first company I've worked at in my career that is more than 20 years old, and I know most of Progress is at this point based on acquisitions and bringing in new blood. What really kind of attracted Progress to Chef?
Yeah, so we have a phenomenal business around helping the ecosystem of developers and people that build, deploy, and manage mission-critical business applications. Yep. That's what Progress has done for 40 years. We're not just 20 years old.
I know.
This is our 40th anniversary. And over that period, dramatic shifts have taken place, right? So when you think about deploying and managing, DevOps and DevSecOps has become central to that. And so we said we need to be in that. And we looked around and we found that Chef was the best company out there with amazing products, with even more amazing customers, and a phenomenal ecosystem of both contributors in the community as well as employees and so on, and a great cultural fit with us. So that's what attracted us to Chef. And I think I want to emphasize that with any business, especially software business, people are the only thing that matter. Yeah. So it's the employees in the company, it is the customer ecosystem, and it is the community of open source contributors. So all of that, right? Yeah. The audience here, which is a phenomenal expert audience, right? And I think those made it really, really interesting and attractive to us.
That makes perfect sense. And the conversations that you and Sundar have had with all of our community members, I know that there's so many, both internal and external community members that you've had conversations with. What have you learned having Chef as part of Progress?
So, one of the most interesting things is that before Chef, we'd never had an open source product in the company. Yep. Now, some people at Progress might quibble and say, oh, we have this free product called Fiddler Classic.
Right.
had it for over a decade. But the reality is free is not the same as open source. We all know that, right? It's very, very different. And so how do we nurture an open source community? How do we nurture the contributors? What do we do with that, right? And make it even more interesting for the community to work with Progress and for us to work with them. And I hope we've done some of the right things along the way in the last 10, 11 months. And where we have stumbled, I hope we will do better going forward. But it's really an amazing learning experience. So that's one. The second is really the sort of sub-industry itself, the DevOps, DevSecOps market, understanding the needs, how we evolve our products, how we continue to make sure that we meet the needs of our customers, right? We solve the problems that they are having today and what we expect them to have tomorrow, right? And so stay ahead of the game. So that's a second big thing, and learning that and working on that. And the third part, and this happens with every acquisition, is the cultures come together and your culture gets stronger. You have to be intentional about it. You have to find the positives in the culture and embrace them, and embrace them wholeheartedly. So that's been wonderful. And by the way, doing it during COVID has been a learning experience in a different way, right? I don't think that is very chef specific, but the fact that, you are the first person from the chef employee base that I'm meeting for the very first time, right? And it's been close to 11 months. And so it is really a remarkable thing. But it's a testament to the people on both sides that the companies have come together, the teams have come together, because our culture has helped us do that. And I love that.
Yeah, and you mentioned culture. The one of those stories that I keep hearing internally is how much energy Chef has brought to Progress, the startup energy. We're very, when you hit 40 years old as a company, there's a certain amount of slowing down that you do, and a certain amount of you act much more intentionally, right? And startups, as by nature, are very quick and very, very learn fast, fail fast sort of places.
Oh, absolutely. And you want to pick that up. You want to continue to grow. You want to continue to learn. So as I said, I think picking up the positives on both sides is really, really phenomenal. And I think one of the most important common threads has been that both Progress and Chef have been very much focused on the success of the customer. Always have been, always will be. And for us, again, the ecosystem continues to be the developer-centric ecosystem. So that allows us to then say, how do we then make it happen together? So it's been a lot of fun. I think when a new organization becomes a part of a company, I think that's tremendous opportunity to grow. And I think it also creates opportunities for people that came to Progress from Chef as well. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to us continuing to move forward together.
Agreed. Yeah, and the people really have been a huge part of what makes Chef what it is. And that's what excites me so much about this next part, where we get to bring in people that have been part of the ecosystem for a very long time, external community members that have walked through the acquisition with us. Welcome, Lance and Brittany.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Great
It's
to have you. Yeah. We'll start with some introductions, I guess. I'm so excited to have people that have been around for so long. How you joined the Chef community, how you interact with Chef, how you interact with the community, what your roles are in your current job, that kind of stuff. Why don't you want to start, Brittany?
Yeah, that's fine. So currently I am a manager of the server automation team with H&R Block. But I started in the Chef community about 7 years ago-ish, maybe a little longer. I was a system administrator for a company called Jack Henry and Associates. Chef was very new to them at that point in time. I was one of 2 people interacting with the platform. So I picked up Chef, learned Chef, and then moved on to Carfax, which is where I helped implement Chef from basically beginning to when I left it. And then now I'm essentially doing the same thing at H&R Block. I started with them about 10 months ago as a lead automation engineer, and then moved into the manager of the server automation team from there.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. And what about you, Lance?
Oh, yeah. So I'm the director of the open source lab at Oregon State University. We do a lot of infrastructure hosting for medium to large open source projects. We've been around since about 2003. We've been around quite a while. And we started using Chef in about 2013. We were migrating away from CF Engine 2. And we use it to manage all of our infrastructure, including all the fun little architecture stuff that we do, like with PowerPC Little Indian, ARM64. We even have some S390X.
Wow.
And we deploy stuff with OpenStack, Ceph, GitLab, you name it. We manage it with that, and all of our students get involved with managing it. And I've been involved in a variety of capacity, mainly just a user, and then more recently, I've gotten more involved. I'm the PTL for the OpenStack Chef Oregon, the OpenStack umbrella, so I manage all those cookbooks there. I'm a board member of the sous chefs, and I'm also a member of the Sync project that helps build the Syncs binaries as well for all of the projects. So I've been quite active in the last couple of years. I didn't start out that way, but certainly gotten more.
Well, thank you. Really appreciate both your participation, and such a pleasure to meet you both. I know that Chef has been a part of Progress for just about 11 months. To be honest, I'm sure the initial news was probably something that was disconcerting. How has it been for you? What was your initial reaction? And how has the last 11 months, made you feel about what has happened with Chef?
Yeah, so initially I was a little concerned. I didn't know anything about Progress. I've never heard of Progress before. I was concerned about losing some key engineers that I knew made a lot of the products really solid. I wasn't sure what was going to happen with the products. I was concerned, is things just going to go in maintenance mode? Or are we actually going to see some movement on some things? And maybe some of the communication initially was a little, it could have been done a little bit better. But I think overall things have improved. Started seeing a lot more movement on various projects. It was slow for a little while, obviously, because you were bringing up folks. One thing that I really noticed was that the habitat community just seemed to crawl to a stop, but it seems to be picking up quite a bit now, so that's good. And I was sad to see some of the longtime engineers go that you've had that's been a part of it. But it's also been great to see a lot of the additional focus such on Test Kitchen. That's something that really hasn't had any engineering time full time on it, and it's really great to see that being put in there, because there's a lot of great things that need to be happening in that. And all the new hires that have been onboarded or being onboarded are really doing great, getting understanding the products and kind of getting some fixes in and whatnot. And so I'm really happy to see that things have improved. I feel like as of today, things look really great, and I've been really happy with everything.
Well, thank you so much, Lance. What about you, Brittany? I mean, you've experienced Chef at 3 different places, and now, of course, at H&R Block. How seems like you got to H&R Block just around the same time that we acquired Chef. What has your experience been like?
Yeah, so for me, I talked a little bit. I also am doing a session for ChefConf as well, and I talked a little bit in there about how the chef community, we're a very tight-knit community, and we celebrate our wins in the community vocally, loudly, with enthusiasm, and we also take losses very hard. And so in the beginning of this acquisition period for the community, at least from that perspective, it was a little rough. It was kind of a big blow. We were losing we were losing a lot of our chef friends, right? But as we've moved through the transition period, that Chef has kind of grown in a lot of ways, and the community has been able to remain largely intact. We still did have that initial blow of losing a lot of the engineers that we've networked with for years and years that have been a part of the product. But from a product perspective, from a business perspective, at least from my side, it very much looks like a lot of things that needed attention before, or that Chef as a growing company just didn't have the resources to be able to put toward it. It seems like a lot of those projects are being taken up now, and a lot of the things where we had some functionality but we really needed more from like an enterprise perspective. A lot of those things are starting to grow. So I think in that regard, as well as, you know, Progress's focus on community, we're in a good spot, especially if you all continue to focus on community and continue to build and you know, harness the power of what Chef originally built. Because I've also talked about this community is one unlike any other community I've been a part of. We're very tight knit. You know, we come from all different businesses and walks of life and all of that. And what we've been able to build is really special. So I think that keeping a focus on that and continuing to build the product and not allowing it to go into like maintenance mode, I think is powerful. So I think we're on a good track is basically the TLDR of that.
Well, thank you. You know, I know, as I said, you know, whenever something like this happens, it is truly disruptive at the start. And I'm sorry about some of the things that we had to do. And I'm also sorry about the way we communicated, right, at the very start. I'm glad to hear that things are on track and that we are focusing on the right things, you know. So to me, that is really wonderful to hear back. What are your, you know, expectations going forward? You know, some of you, I think some of it you just expressed, but, you know, more specifically, you know, what would you like us to see do more of? Because we really want to make sure that we address the needs and concerns of folks like yourselves, right? You know, you are why we exist. Let's be honest, right? You know, it is the success of our users and customers that any product, any business has to worry about first. So what can we do more of? What should we do less of?
I think on my end, just continuing, kind of like I said earlier, but just continuing on that harnessing of the power of this community, but also listening to users. There's a lot of things. It's great to build out new features and all of the fun stuff that everybody wants to do, but there's also a lot of stuff, you know, at the enterprise level. And especially with the environment that Chef has harnessed for so long of use this tool how your organization needs to use it. I think there's a lot of area to listen to customers and listen to users and what makes this tool most impactful. What things do you need to see to be able to leverage this to its full capacity? I think that's the best way to summarize that. So.
Thank you, Brittany. How about you, Lance?
Yeah, I would kind of agree with that as well. You know, I think over the years, there's been a shift of, you know, how much focus has been on the corporate side, the corporate users of it versus the community side, and kind of listening to both and try to, you know, have a balance between both of them. You know, there's a lot of things that's like, it's great for, you know, what we're using, but at an enterprise level, maybe not. You know, the community has shifted a lot and changed a lot in the last 5 years between the licensing change with the binaries to now the acquisition. And also just the ecosystem has changed quite a bit, you know, with Kubernetes and other tools out there. A lot of people have been deploying their applications and have been more focused on application side, less so on system side, which is where I'm more at. And so that's really changed quite a bit. But I think continuing to focus on, you know, the various things, you know, there's some things like when I tell people about Inspect, for example, they're like, wow, that's awesome. I've never heard of it before. And it's one of those things like, I feel like you don't play up enough. You know, there's things like that. And Habitat's another thing. I mean, I haven't had a lot of experience with Habitat, but I feel like that's a really amazing product along with Chef, and it just ties with everything really well. You know, and also don't forget about your users from the past and how they manage things. You know, for example, you know, I'm using Chef Server quite a bit, and I know a lot of push has been towards automate, and we're not ready for that. There's going to be a lot of people where like, we're stuck here. It's the same thing with the InfraClient. You know, there's a lot of people stuck on the old version, and Tim's been doing an amazing job making that transition a lot smoother. But, you know, just being able to remember you have these folks that are using the older software, but they want to move up to the new versions and just kind of do that. And I'm also looking forward to finally seeing the whole community in person, hopefully soon, because I've really missed that.
We are too. I mean, I was talking to Benny earlier. I said, yeah, there's nothing like face-to-face meeting. You know, Benny and I met for the first time today, right, in person, and it's been what, as I said, 11 months. It's just I have never ever in my life done an acquisition where we've not shown up on day one and met with the people at the main office. I'm always there. And I have not met anybody. Benny's the first. So, it is, I'm hoping that next year we'll be able to do this truly in person. And maybe some people will still connect virtually, because I think the virtual stuff to some degree is here to stay. I think it'll end up being those that can't travel for whatever reason, they can still get value out of it. But I think the in-person interaction is just invaluable. So hopefully we can do that. I really appreciate both of you making time for this. Brittany and Lance, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you involving me in this, and Lance as well. It's great to be able to have these conversations, and it's great to be able to have them candidly.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree completely as well. This is great. Thank you very much.
Thank you both.
That was such a great conversation with Brittany and Lance. I'm so grateful that they joined us. There were some really great, frank bits of feedback in there, and some really things that we can take forward and have put into action.
Yep.
Absolutely. It'll be good for that. And speaking of conversations and actions and going forward, we should definitely talk to some of our leadership.
You're right. I think that it's time we bring up Sundar to speak about what is going on with Chef, as well as Sudhir and others. So for those of you who don't know, Sundar is the general manager of the Chef business. He runs it all. Before doing this, he was general manager of some of our new product areas, and Sundar has a phenomenal background. He's a technologist, he's a marketeer, he's a general manager, he's a product guy. But above all, my path with him has crossed multiple times over the last 20 years. And above all, I think Sundar is a good guy. He's a nice guy if you get to know him. I know it's tough to get to know people online nowadays. But without further ado, over to you, Sundar.
Thanks, Yogesh. It is a pleasure to be with all of you today, our community, users, customers. Of course, I had a chance to chat with a lot of you in the start of the year, in the early days of the acquisition. Some of those conversations were filled with anxiety, questions about what our plans are, where we are headed. And once we shared that, and then more importantly, you saw our actions, I think they turned into more of a trusted conversations, and the tone and tenor changed, and that was really gratifying. I also had a chance to interact with the community, reassure everybody, and then once our product manager started sharing the roadmap of different products every month, and of course we did the community appreciation event in April. That was amazing. It was very well received. The high energy that I saw, that was like so gratifying. And I learned a lot from these conversations. I saw how, for example, how our customer architects were so embedded in the customer deployment process, the topology, how they were able to help the customers get more value. I heard a lot about how the use of Slack channels in supporting customers was very appreciated. For example, any customer could reach almost any employee in Chef. We could solve problems as soon as we heard about them. That's something that really gladdened my heart. And I think that helps us actually understand what is important to the customer and community, right? We heard that basically getting value from Chef, the fastest is important. The amount of work that needs to be done to get to value should be minimized. And that resonated a lot with our mission of helping accelerate your DevOps journey. And you will see that in the next few announcements in terms of the new products and offerings that we are bringing to the table. Our SaaS offering, you'll hear more details about that, which will be launched sometime soon. You'll hear about our managed services offering. Here, basically, you can use the capability and expertise of our teams to help get your Chef deployment off the ground and manage and get things done in a much faster way from your perspective. And a lot of this has happened primarily because of the focus and the efforts of our teams and the dedication with which they have worked on all of these matters. I really want to appreciate them for that. And that has been so gratifying to see. And that also helped us actually create the right investment patterns, focus on some things, increase the investments in product engineering teams and things like that, which are of course led by Sudhir. He is one of the long-term chef folks. I'm sure he has interacted with many of you over the years, and you'll hear more from him in the next few minutes. And I really love this energy and what we are seeing here. I hope to interact with some of you over the next few days. Thanks for coming. Really enjoyed this conversation. And Sudhir, do you want to take through the next few minutes?
Thanks, Sundar. Thanks for setting the stage for us. I want to talk to you all about some of the things that we're announcing for all of our customers and our partners right now. But before I go there, I wanted to quickly talk about how I am so proud of the Chef and Progress team as they went through the acquisition and as they went through all of the things. There's usually ups and downs in an acquisition, and teams have to adjust to new environments and all of that. But throughout all of that, what we've seen is that the team has stayed focused on our customers and on delivering value to our customers and making our DevOps friends happy and their journeys easier. So kudos to the team, new chefs, old chefs, everyone, for making that happen. Second thing I want to talk about is I've been here for 5 years. This is my 5th ChefConf. And I want to say that our community and our customer base remains as vibrant as ever. And I want to thank you all for supporting us through this and being here for us and letting us know all the cool things we could be doing for you. So thank you. With that, from an announcement perspective, I want to talk about 3 things that we're announcing here from a broad thematic perspective. The first one is around compliance and multi-cloud. And for those of you who, just as a primer, multi-cloud basically means if you have assets in AWS and in Azure and in Google, as well as on premises, so you have hybrid and multiple cloud environments, we're here to help you with that. And we'll talk about some of the feature sets there. And then we're also doing a bunch of work in terms of our EAS stack, which is the entire portfolio of Chef products, including Inspect and Chef Infra and all of those coming together. We call that the EAS, Enterprise Automation Stack. And we've done a bunch of productivity improvements on that. And I'll walk you through that. And then there's deployment flexibility, which is really about how do you take the assets that you buy from Chef and use them and deploy them in your environments so that you have the fastest time to value with those products. So let's start with compliance and multi-cloud. If you recall, last year at ChefConf, we announced the compliance product suite, which was not only inspect and automate doing the work, but also content that went in and helped support that. We announced some premium content and a portfolio of content that you could get from us. We've been doing a lot of work in this area. We've invested quite a bit in this. And what you'll see now is that for customers who have hybrid clouds and multi-cloud environments, we have all of the content and things, and we continue to enhance that over time, but we have a ton of content to help you on the journey. And I won't dwell too much on this because we'll actually talk to somebody who has implemented this in practice, and we'll walk through their journey in a minute. But I want to say that we have on AWS upwards of 160 resources at this point. On Google Cloud, we have 100. On Azure, we have over 60 resources, and we continue to enhance that. We also have been enhancing all of the non-cloud, quote unquote, assets that you have, your operating systems, your applications, as well as your databases and things that you rely on getting CIS or DISA or whatever benchmarks you're used to. We've been expanding that content, and we're continually shipping that. A great example there is one of our pharma customers has actually been able to take our content and adhere to their GXP standards, which is what pharma and food service companies, I believe that came from the FDA, that's what they use. And they've been able to adopt our content and enhance our content and add their own things on top and use it for that. And in addition to all of that, when you're in a cloud environment, one thing that happens is that not only do you have to scan your cloud assets as well as on-premises assets, but there are things that you would do in cloud native compliance world, for example, Azure policy, if you're on Azure. And what we've enabled now is a deep integration into Azure policy so that when you do your cloud scans through Azure policy, you can then get all that data into Automate and have a single pane of glass for Automate, which makes us a stronger player in the cloud security posture management world and makes our CSPM story really strong and work there. Second thing I want to talk about is our EAS stack enhancements. We've been continually working on making sure that all of our portfolio assets come together and you're able to use those in a seamless and easy manner. And here's a bunch of things that really help you on that journey. First thing I want to talk about is the compliance phase. The compliance phase is really a replacement for what our customers know as the audit cookbook, which is the way you bring compliance and inspect content closer to the Chef Infra and be able to run that there. It used to be a little clunky to use and things, and customers have told us, is there a better way to do that? And now we have a better way to do that, which is embed the running of these compliance scans natively within Chef Infra, and thereby enable you to seamlessly finish your detect, correct, and automate story. For customers who've heard that, we're able to fully support that. Not only support the feature sets there, but also as you integrate this into your CI and CD pipelines, this enables you to make that completely seamless so that you don't have to worry about having an extra thing you need to integrate into your CI. If you've integrated your Chef Infra, you've already got all of that. So your shift left journey has become that much easier. Along the same vein, we have secrets management, which a lot of our customers, a lot of you all are using various secrets management tools. Hashi Vault is one of them. Azure has Azure Key Store, as well as AWS has a vaulting mechanism integrating with that. So we have a beta that's already out that integrates with Azure and AWS, and the rest are coming soon, and we've been working on those. Along with all of that, of course, we have to make sure that we enable your test-driven development methodologies with our Test Kitchen software. We want to enable a seamless command line interface mechanism, and we've integrated Workstation into all of that. So you'll see a lot of those come in along with those. On the Chef Infra server side, we have been on this journey where we've tried to simplify your server-side assets for you, and we have merged the Chef server install along with Automate. Now what we're also doing is bring a lot of the views from the previous Chef Manage, for example, into Automate itself, and bring a lot of that functionality that's relevant in Automate into Automate. And you'll see that now not only can you see views of multiple chef servers and organizations within Automate, but you can also apply your policy files to each node that you want or nodes that you want to from right within Automate and from right within the UI. It makes that journey seamless. And then we continually keep enhancing our language in terms of what we're doing with bringing resources into Inspect, into Chef Infra itself, so that the DSL itself for Chef and Inspect becomes stronger, and you can use them in all the familiar mechanisms you have to use those. The final area I want to talk about is on deployment flexibility. What we mean by this is once you've purchased or acquired Chef software, how do you go deploy that in your environments? How do you make sure you're maintaining that over time and staying current with the latest, etc.? And these are some of the things we've done to help you with that. First, we're announcing a managed services offering whereby you can engage with us and we will give you the expertise and the resources you need to help not only keep your software upgraded to the latest, so automatic upgrades when new things come out. We also give you the ability to keep your cookbooks updated, keep your cookbooks enhanced, and truly a managed service from that perspective. We also have enhanced and updated our AWS and Azure marketplaces images so that you can bring your own license and go to AWS or Azure marketplaces and acquire Chef software and be able to use them and deploy them within your environment. We'll continue to enhance that. We'll do more things around making that more transactable in the future and things, but we're on that journey. And last but not the least at all is I'm super happy that we're announcing the beta that's soon to come, a beta of Chef Automate itself, as well as the rest of the Chef Kit that you can then, customers can use as a true SaaS product, be able to sign in and utilize all of the functionality there. If you're interested, please reach out to us on our website. There's AHA for you to provide feedback to us. Please go there. Or if you run across at ChefConf any of our product managers or any of our customer-facing teams, feel free to mention it to them so that we can help you out. And we'd love to hear from you on those things. To summarize, what we've done is we just announced these 3 areas, right? Cloud compliance with multi-cloud and hybrid cloud support. We talked about enhancing the EAS portfolio, the entire stack of products, to make it much more productive and easy to use, as well as we talked about how we made it easy for you to adopt the product and thereby get a much faster time to value on your Chef products. With that, I want to stick with the compliance theme for just a second and talk to a customer who's actually implemented this. And we're talking about 10,000 plus cloud accounts, 13 million, that's 13 million resources that they're today scanning in using Chef. And I want to introduce you, without further ado, to Jay Thoden Van Velzen from SAP, who runs the multi-cloud security operations team at SAP. Welcome on board, or welcome on stage, Jay. So good to see you.
Thanks so much, Sudhir. It's great to be here, and it's such an honor to be at ChefConf.
The honor is ours. So Jay, as we go through this, it would be great if you can set the context for what do you and your team do at SAP, and what are you responsible for when you talk about multi-cloud security here?
Mm-hmm. So SAP has a team called Multi-Cloud, of which we're a part, that is really the interface between different cloud providers and the rest of the company. So we're strategically operating across 4 different cloud providers, so AWS, Azure, GCP, and Ali Cloud. And our organization helps the rest of the company to accelerate into public cloud, get onboarded, as well as security services, including centralized compliance scanning.
That's great. And so that's a lot of different cloud vendors that you use, and a lot of different cloud environments. When you embarked on this project, what were the main parameters? What was your goal, and what were some of the challenges you were facing as you went through that?
So the first challenge really is that multi-cloud aspect, right? When we first looked into this problem, it was actually really hard to get coverage across all of the 4 providers. And the second one is really one of scale. Like SAP has doubled their use of cloud resources in public cloud every year for the last couple of years, and we're actually exceeding in that growth now. We tend to make decisions, of course, a few years ahead, so you know what your trajectory is, and that made this actually really difficult problem. Anybody doing these things in public cloud at scale will find themselves that even the basics turn out to be very, very difficult.
Yeah. And with that sort of growth and that sort of scale that we're talking about, it's very easy for implementations to think about trade-offs and sacrificing security and compliance in that mix and all of that. How did you strike the balance between what you needed to get done versus not really sacrificing on your security stance and your compliance stance and things?
But you have to do things in a smart way, and unfortunately, we live in a landscape where everybody has budgets and everybody has economic incentives. We see that in the cloud providers themselves, who quite understandably secure their side of the house, but accounts are set for ease of onboarding. That's totally understandable. So there's a lot of things that you have to do yourself as user of public cloud services. And that is something that we try to centralize up to a point. There's an enormous amount of flexibility within the organization and variety of workloads, as well as different sizes of teams. So, some teams may be very big and have a large operations team. Others may be just internal and not customer facing, and may just be one guy trying to keep a server up. And we have to serve that entire internal market in flexible solutions that are easy to onboard as well, because that's not always as easy in current security tooling.
Yeah, and so one, that looks like you kind of weighed all those parameters and settled on an approach and came up with a solution. So describe for us how Chef and Progress as a cloud security posture management tool was able to assist you in your approach, and what does the overall solution look like for you when all is said and done?
So as I said, we serve a wide variety of customers. So one of the things that was really attractive to us was the ability to give tooling into the hands of the lines of businesses themselves. So by containerizing Chef, bake in the rule set, we give that out to the lines of businesses as a Docker container, which means it basically runs wherever Docker runs with a command line. And as a result, can plug into any kind of security tooling, and teams can even run it interactively directly from their laptop if they so wish. Right? So that's really trying to encourage a shift-left approach towards security. I think the second thing that was really important, especially in large organizations, it's really important to be able to distribute the results out in a way that makes sense to the company. We, with 13, now actually 14 million cloud resources and 8 different board areas, you have to find a way to distribute this out within the structure of the organizational hierarchy so that it goes to the right people at the right time. And that made a lot of sense to use Chef for as a way to easily plug in additional enrichment, get it into a reporting structure and distribute that out. So that's been really important. The scalability is the second aspect. By the centralized scans that we run within a Kubernetes environment and scan the entire cloud landscape in about 3 hours every day. With a whole bunch of exceptions in place, so we make heavy use of the waiver mechanism because different lines of businesses have different reasons why they might have compensating controls, and that level of flexibility and our ability to change, modify, and contribute to the open source community has been very beneficial to us internally, but I will also admit that there's a certain amount of satisfaction that we know that people can, outside of SAP, can now scan Ali Cloud landscapes, for instance, for security policy compliance on public cloud.
Yeah, and one of the things I forgot to mention early on is not only are you a valuable customer, but you're a valuable open source contributor into the Chef ecosystem as well. So for those of you who don't know, SAP has been instrumental in providing a lot of the source code for Ali Cloud support that we have, along with our professional services. SAP has been contributing to that. So thank you for that. And just to give everyone a scale to, just to reiterate what you said, you talked about scanning the entire cloud landscape within 3 hours. With around 900 or so exceptions and waivers in place. And these are all distributed among your stakeholders. So that's incredible at the scale and things. In terms of, so that explains the software side of things and what you had to implement, but I'm sure there were other challenges in terms of picking up a new tool and coming up to speed and ease of use for all your stakeholders and all of that. What commentary would you have on that?
So that actually had to be really quite easy. It went remarkably fast. We had the first real contact with Chef in February of 2020. and we had the first environment stood up in July, including the first controls deployed. Team picked up the particular flavor of Chef Inspect Ruby pretty quickly, and the library of CIS controls that already existed helped accelerate some of that development as well. Since then, we built out a full pipeline and regular releases. We just released 3.1 the other day, and it's been fantastic. Containerizing has been good, but Joe and Tim from my team can talk much better about that than me. But there's never been any issue along the way, which has been really good. Same with open source contributions, the documentation that we've used, and the consulting as well has been really helpful to get us started quickly.
Thank you. That's a great story, fascinating story. And just to give again, reiterating, from February of 2020 was when we first met as Chef and SAP, and in July we had the implementation going, and it's been great so far. And from my perspective, when I first heard about the SAP implementation and the sheer scale, I actually came out to Belfast, and there's a team out in Belfast that you have that did that, and met with the team. I was confident we could get it done, but I was also a little bit nervous in terms of the scale and making sure that things go great for you and all of that. I must say I'm pleasantly surprised. And if I may use one quote from you, Jay, that you just said when we were chatting earlier, I love it, and I'm going to use it. You said, the most nervous I've been in this project is when I had to make the slides for the which to me is an incredible story to tell. So thank you for your contribution into our open source community, and thank you for making us a great solution for you. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Sudhir. It's true. It's was only in hindsight that I maybe realized how much of a gamble it was, but everything went so smooth along the way that it never felt like that. Awesome.
Hey, and for thank you again, Jay. And for those of you who are interested in learning more about what SAP is doing, about the nitty-gritties of the technology and all of that, there are two sessions I want to bring your attention to. There's one aptly named session called How Many Targets that Jay is presenting to you all. So please make sure that you go and see that. As well as Jay's colleague, Tim Jones, has another session that says how SAP scales compliance for 10,000 plus cloud accounts and growing with Chef Inspect. So please be on the lookout for those. Please attend. You'll gain a lot from that. And once again, thank you, Jay. It's been a pleasure, and we'll talk to you soon. With that, what I want to do next is thank you all for listening, and then hand off back to Benny and Yogesh to do some exciting awards and rewards for our community and our customers.
Thanks, Sudhir. That was a great spot, and I'm so excited to hear about everything that we're going to do this year. And it was great to hear from Jay.
Sure was. Wonderful to hear Jay again. I heard him last time at the kickoff in December.
Yeah.
And the story at SAP is just phenomenal.
It is. It's a great story. Next up, I think we get to take care of the awards. Today we're going to do customer awards and partner awards. Do you want to kick those off?
You bet. So the first customer award is for Chef Continuous Delivery Trailblazer. And this recognizes companies that have taken their chef automation efforts to the next level by integrating chef software as part of their CI/CD pipelines. These teams excel at DevOps testing, use the latest and greatest versions of Chef to deploy software, OS patches, and infrastructure updates via secure and automated pipelines. Now, this year's winner of the Chef Continuous Delivery Trailblazer Award is Bluestem Brands, Windows DevOps team, who over the course of the past year did several things. First, implemented a new patching solution incorporating Chef and replacing SCCM. 2, saved hundreds of hours related to compliance checks using Chef Compliance. 3, implemented a fully automated Chef Infra Cookbook pipeline, including deployment of the pre-production environments for testing. And 4, completed not 1, but 2 Chef Infra client upgrades, and has most recently started using Chef Infra compliance phase to further streamline their operations. Congratulations, Bluestem team. To hear more about Bluestem's amazing automation journey, tune into their session, A Windows View into DevSecOps Success at Bluestem Brands, which is later today. The next customer award, the Continuous Compliance Champion Award, recognizes organizations that have leveraged Chef Compliance and or Chef Inspec in creative ways to deploy scalable, secure, and compliant environments. These teams excel at using Chef tools to adopt DevSecOps practices to manage, detect, audit, and remediate on-prem, cloud, or hybrid environments. This year's winner of the Continuous Compliance Champion Award is SAP's multi-cloud operations team for their advancement in the use of Chef Inspec to scan their public cloud infrastructure at unparalleled scale for security compliance. Congratulations. By using Chef Inspec, SAP has been able to 1. Scan thousands of cloud accounts on the 4 major cloud vendors, AWS, Azure, GCP, and Alibaba. 2. Verify over 10 million cloud resources per run for their continuous cloud compliance. 3. Scale the delivery of compliance validation by running a private Chef Inspec Kubernetes cluster to scan their entire cloud landscape in 3 to 4 hours. Congratulations, SAP. To hear more about SAP's incredible story, tune into 2 Chefkhan sessions later today. First, the technical session, how SAP scales compliance for 10,000 plus cloud accounts and growing with Chef Inspec. Second, which is a business session, how many targets? Story of SAP selecting Chef Inspec for cloud security posture management. Now let's turn to Chef Partner Awards. These awards recognize the premier companies in DevOps and DevSecOps space who have built strong and meaningful relationships with both Chef and its mutual customers. Chef partners offer Chef solution in specific geographies, specialized verticals, and customized deployments. This year's first partner award is for the Public Sector Partner of the Year. And the winner is Tap Here. Tap Here Technology is a small business that designs, builds, deploys, and sustains systems and software engineering solutions to meet the objectives of the US federal government. Through their technical experiences and strategic partnerships with Chef, Tap Here continuously aims to help their customers accelerate how they deliver value to their missions. Up next, the 2021 Emerging Partner of the Year. And the winner is NCS. NCS is a leading technology services firm operating across Asia Pacific, providing DevOps and DevSecOps services and solutions and more. We would like to give an honorable mention to an Emerging Partner of the Year, Climb Solutions. Climb Solutions is a subsidiary of Wayside Technology Group and is an international specialty technology distributor focused on emerging technologies. Moving on to 2021 Technology Partner of the Year, TechRacer. TechRacer is a modern and agile company with more than 130 employees in different countries in Europe. They not only achieved the Chef Principal Partner status, but were also an AWS Premier Partner. The technologists of TechRacer are experts in Chef, and their slogan is, "Make impossible things possible." TechRacer wants to give back to the community, so they made the decision to be active contributors to several Chef projects. In 2019, they made the Kitchen vCenter driver enterprise ready and made large improvements to the Chef ecosystem. In 2020, they created articles in German and US Admin magazine and drove the implementation of Remote OHI. And this year, they established the first Chef SaaS solution for European enterprise customers. Congratulations, TechRaiser. And now, last but not least, the 2021 Partner of the Year. And the winner is Ahead. Ahead is an IT consulting partner that specializes in stitching together technologies to drive a more holistic, automated service delivery platform. Ahead helps their clients evaluate technologies, understand how they would integrate within their environment, and help procure those technologies and deploy and optimize those environments for positive business outcomes. We are grateful and proud of all the award winners this year and the immense contributions to the chef community by delivering solutions that enable our customers to digitally transform and provide outcomes at speed. Thank you all. Congratulations for winning, and we look forward to your continued partnership with Chef. And so congratulations to all of our award winners, partners, as well as customers. And now we get into the meat of things.
Yeah, it's time.
It is. I'm really excited. We have phenomenal content ahead. I am really, really looking forward to the sessions, the information that is going to be shared. We also have the bands, of course, and the virtual party. I'm looking forward to that as well. And then last but not least, we're going to do the Awesome Chef Awards on day 2 to recognize the community and folks from the community who we want to highlight. So this is shaping up to be really, really, really awesome content ahead.
It really is. And on day 3, we're actually going to launch our first hackathon.
Wow.
Typically on the last day of ChefConf, we have what we call a hack day, where we bring everybody together to solve some of the problems that we've got. But orchestrating that with a digital event was nearly impossible. So we decided to do an actual hackathon where we'll have 6 weeks of people building things and solving problems and sharing how they solve those problems in very real life ways. And this year they can win actual money behind it.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of money are we talking about?
There's almost $60,000 in prizes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. So, solve real problems for DevOps practitioners and win real money.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And then tomorrow we're doing the live Q&A with you and a bunch of the leadership from Chef.
So I'll be back?
Yes. Yes, you will.
Tough for you. Anyway, I am really excited. And I think looking forward to the rest of the event.
Agreed.
Thank you, everyone.
So the last thing for today is just some housekeeping. Though all of our talks this year are pre-recorded, except for tomorrow's live Q&A, you will find that the structure is quite similar to an in-person event. We'll start both days with a keynote and have highlighted talks along with a ton of breakout sessions. We've even built in a break partway through the day for a meal or just some time away from your computer. If you miss a talk, they will be available on demand shortly after their live stream has completed. All questions for the session should be directed to our community Slack. You'll find a link in the description of this session, as well as on our community site at community.chef.io. Thanks again for joining us today and for all of ChefConf 21. It's going to be an amazing event. Let's get to it.